So in junior high, I had a Chicago Blackhawks Denis Savard jersey that I wore. He was a player at the time, and he was exciting to watch. And the last name was Savard, and my last name was Savard. It was kind of a cool thing. Even though I was an Edmonton Oilers fan, this was the only other player that I cheered for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, fast forward many years, a couple of decades, I had the idea, I don't know where I got it from, to reach out to Denis and see if he would sign a jersey for me. So I can, put together, I found his address and put together a package, a FedEx box with a jersey in it and a letter that said, hey, my name's Marc Savard, I'm a performer in Vegas, and so on and so forth. And about a week later, I get a jersey in the mail. And it's a Savard jersey, signed by Denis, and it says, to Marc, best wishes, Denis Savard, number 18, Hall of Fame 2000. So I don't know if you can see the signature there. And inside the box was a handwritten note that said, hey, I'm coming to Vegas. I'll be there in a couple of weeks. Reach out to me and call me on my cell phone. I was like, that's a little weird, but very nice. So I called him and he answers. He's like, hey, Marc, it's my cousin from Vegas. How are you? And he was just so nice. And those of you who know Denis know what he's like. And he was absolutely awesome. Anyway, he came to town and I met him and I met his wife Mona and their daughter Tanya. And since then we've become great friends. I've been to Chicago, I stayed at their house. They've been to Vegas plenty of times. It's been a great relationship that's coming up to close to a decade. So that's how that started. And then I kind of got the idea, well, maybe I should see if I can track down some of the other Savard jerseys of people that have played in the National Hockey League. So I thought, well, who is it? Well, there's 5 of them. There's Denis, Serge, Andre Savard, Marc Savard, who's the same name as I do, and David Savard. So I'm like, well, maybe I can track these down and see if I can put together a nice collection. I'm not really a collector of memorabilia. I do have a signed Gretzky jersey that Wayne signed for me when I performed at his retirement dinner. And that's really it. A lot of things have come through my possession. I've given him as gifts and have shared them, and because I've just not really, hasn't been my thing. But this is my thing. I've been enjoying putting this all together. So the next guy, I thought, well, I should reach out to Serge Savard. He's the oldest of all the Savards. And so how do I find him? Well, I begin the process. So I guess maybe I should tell you a little bit about each player before I go any further. So Denis Savard, as it says here, is Hockey Hall of Famer. Was drafted in 1980. He was 3rd overall. And he played from 80 to 97. He's won Stanley Cup and I believe 2 Stanley Cups. He's won one with Montreal at the tail end of his career, and the other Stanley Cup he won as management and an ambassador for the Chicago Blackhawks. He amassed 131 points in one season. I believe that was 87-88. And anyway, you know him as the Savard Spinorama. He does the spins on the ice and was absolutely a beautiful player to watch and very exciting, a lot of fun. So anyway, along comes Serge Savard. So I decide now I'm going to find Serge. So I do a bunch of searching. Anyway, I found that he runs and owns a real estate investment company in Quebec. So I sent him an email, said, hey, my name is Marc Savard, I'm a performer, same kind of idea. I was hoping that maybe you would sign a jersey for me. And, so he replies, and I'd be happy to, and sign the jersey for me. So the next one in the collection is the Montreal Serge Savard, number 18. There you can see the signature there. And he played from 63 to 83. And he's the first defenseman to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, the playoff MVP. First defenseman to ever do that, which is a huge thing. He's also won 8 Stanley Cups as a player. So Serge Savard's name as a player is on the Stanley Cup 8 times, and 2 more times as management, general manager. So he's got his name inscribed on the cup 10 times. That's remarkable. It's actually the most, I think it's a record for the most defensemen who has their name on the Stanley Cup, which is pretty awesome. But what people don't know is that he actually was kind of the first guy to do the Savard spinorama. As a defenseman, he would do that. And I think it was broadcaster Danny Gallivan who coined the term the Savard spinorama. He was actually the one who created it, or Danny Gallivan is the one that actually said it first, but Denis Savard is kind of synonymous with the Savard spinorama. So, since having that sign, just recently, Serge has a son named Marc Savard. Not Marc Savard the player, not Marc Savard the hypnotist, Marc Savard, the son of Serge Savard, who has a life and he's involved in law and judge and whatnot in Quebec. And just recently he came to town with his wife, and we went out for dinner and got to know him, and it was actually really, really cool. And he's a great guy. And so we're continuing that friendship and building on that. So next, that brings me to the next jersey. David Savard played for the Columbus Blue, or plays currently for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And a friend of mine, JJ Hebert, who worked for the Edmonton Oilers at the time, I would go to a lot of hockey games, and I'd want to see the Oilers play in every single arena. It's kind of my bucket list thing. I've been to 31 National Hockey League arenas seeing the Oilers play. And some of those arenas are old arenas that don't exist anymore, so like Atlanta Thrashers and a couple other arenas. Well, I've got 5 more to go to. I've got Seattle's new arena next year. I've got Winnipeg's arena to go to. I've got Tampa Bay's to go to. And I've got Detroit's new arena, the Little Caesars Arena. I've been to the Joe Louis. And the last one is Toronto. And I'm actually booked a trip January 2020 to see the Oilers play in Toronto. And I'm going to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame and whatnot. So that should be a lot of fun. So point is, I was at a game in Columbus, and JJ, the communications rep for the Edmonton Oilers, introduced me to the communications rep for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that's how we got David to sign the jersey. So David still currently plays in the National Hockey League. Here's the Columbus Blue Jackets. David was drafted in 2009, and he didn't play until 2011 was when he first played with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And now, at the time of this video, he's coming up to 500 games, or just over 500 games in the National Hockey League, which is a cool thing. So David Savard, defenseman for the Columbus Blue Jackets, signed this jersey for me. The next one was Andre Savard. That was the hardest one for me to find, because Andre, I don't know, he was in the witness protection program or something for the last 6 years. He was impossible to find, and I did find him. I sent him the jersey. Well, see, he was a player, and then general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, and then the assistant manager. He steps aside, and I think Marc Bergevin became the general manager. And I think Andre Savard, as he was general manager, fired Michael Terrien as the coach, and then later on was assistant coach to Terrien at another hockey team, which is kind of funny how that all works. It's part of the job. And so anyway, he wasn't existing anywhere. I didn't know where to find Andre, and he was this elusive player, this ghost that didn't exist. So I reached out to everybody I could. Maybe I was asking the wrong people where to find him. I called Phil Pritchard, a buddy of mine who's the keeper of the Stanley Cup. He would know, right? Hey, where's Andre Savard? He's like, I have no idea. So I did a little more research, and he had been doing some scouting for the Ottawa Senators, and then eventually he's now scouting for the New Jersey Devils. But there's no contact information for him. So I did a little investigative researching and found how the New Jersey Devils emails were built. And then I just put his prefix to it the same way and sent the email out and hoping to get a response. I didn't get a response. I think 4 or 6 months went by, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is impossible. So I tried again, sent another email, and then I got a response. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. I'd absolutely love to do that, but I'm vacationing right now. I'm on my summer home, so why don't you send it to that address, but I'll only be there for these 2 weeks, and we had to fix the timing. And Andre was great over email, and I sent the jersey, he signed it, and sent it back. So that's this jersey, and it was actually hard to find a vintage Buffalo jersey as well, kind of from that era. But here it is, the Andre Savard Buffalo jersey, and there's the nice signature, if you can see that. And he was drafted 6th overall in 1973, played 790 games, amassed 482 points in the National Hockey League. And he played for Boston, Buffalo, and the Quebec Nordiques. You remember the Quebec Nordiques? But primarily, most of his gameplay was for the Buffalo Sabres. Anyway, so I found him in the New Jersey Devils scouting system. And so thanks for Andre for signing that. That's pretty awesome. Now the next jersey to find, well, this one was pretty easy. Marc Savard, who we share that we have the same namesake, has since retired due to concussions. His career was ended short. Dynamic player. And he reached out to me before coming to Vegas, and he reached out to my office, said, hey, is there free tickets for Marc Savard for the Marc Savard Hypnosis show? And so we had a laugh about that, and met his wonderful wife, Valerie, and we've become great friends. And we communicate regularly, and every time he's in town, we do connect. And congratulations to him for getting the assistant coaching job at the Stanley Cup champs, the St. Louis Blues. So he's got a great future ahead of him in the coaching world. You'll see more and more of him in the future. So I reached out to him, I sent him a text. I'm like, hey, I've got all the other jerseys. I've got all the Savard jerseys. I'm just missing yours. And his response was, I was wondering when you were gonna ask. Of course I'd be happy to do that. So I got the Marc Savard Boston jersey. And so, I mean, I could have signed it myself, I guess, but he signed it for me, which is pretty awesome. So his signature is obviously a little different than mine. And I know he wore number 9 in Atlanta, and I haven't asked him this. And I think that sometimes he maybe wore 19, and then he ended up wearing 91, maybe because someone was wearing 19. I don't really know the details. Super fans will know this if you leave that in the comments. Or I guess I could just text him and ask him. But I also find it interesting that he was drafted 91st overall. So maybe that's why he wears 91. I don't know. He was drafted 91st overall in 95. So I don't know. I'm going to ask him that. And then I'll let you guys know what I find out. Anyway, he won the Cup in 2011 with the Boston Bruins. So my name, that's not his name, my name's on the Stanley Cup. So thanks, Mark, for putting that on there. That's pretty cool. And again, he's amassed 706 points in the National Hockey League, which is a huge numbers for a little guy, which is awesome. Okay, so then I'm like, my collection's complete. And then Marc Savard sends me a little picture that shows a Stanley Cup tree of the National Hockey League players. And you know how they're related to each other. And none of them are related except for one. I look at the name and I'm like, what? There's an extra name here. Jean Savard. Who is Jean Savard? I've never heard of this. I don't know who he is. So I start doing a little research, and sure enough, he comes up. Jean Savard is a cousin of Denis, which Denis didn't tell me he had a cousin that played in the National Hockey League. And Jean Savard was a player that had an incredible Quebec Major Junior Hockey League record. If I'm not mistaken, he had like 180 points in one season with the Quebec Ramparts, which is insane. Anyway, he got drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks. And he went 19th overall in 1977. That was actually before Denis Savard, so he's an older cousin. And again, like I said, he killer year in juniors. And then he played for the Chicago Blackhawks, and he played 42 hockey games in the National Hockey League. And then he played one game with the Hartford Whalers after that. So he wore number 27 for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I thought, Jean Savard, how am I going to find this guy? I mean, it was hard enough to find Andre. So I did a little bit of research, and I found a Jean Savard who manages a golf club in Quebec. And I'm like, is it the same guy? So I reach out with an email. This is just 2 weeks ago. And I get their email back on, yeah, that's me. I'd be happy to sign a jersey for you. I'm like, oh my, he was actually the easiest to find, which is crazy. And so I sent him the jersey, and he sent the jersey back. And here it is, signed by Jean Savard, number 27. He played from 77 to 1980, and he played, like I said, 43 National Hockey League games. I don't think there's very many Jean Savard jerseys in existence today that are signed. So that's pretty cool. And so anyway, that's that. I now have a collection of 6 National Hockey League Savard players, and there's no collection like it. As a matter of fact, I believe I'm the only one that actually has personal connection with each of the players. They don't even know each other. I think some of them have met, but for the most part, they don't even know each other, which is a really, really cool thing that I'm the common link. So this is a collection that nobody has. I'm super, super proud of it. Thank you for those of you who watched us to the end and allowing me to share this awesome collection that's taken me almost 10 years to build. And again, of course, I wasn't aggressively pursuing it, but it's taken some time, starting with Denis from almost 10 years ago to where we are with Jean 2 weeks ago. So the collection's complete. Now, if there's new Savards that are coming into the National Hockey League, I'm coming to get you. I need a jersey. So there it is. Thanks for watching.